Welcome back to the Realtor Diaries podcast, episode 4. I'm Elijah McGowan here with
Kim Jacoby. We're the Jacoby team of Century 21, and we are your go-to Northern California realtors.
Today's topic is showings and the things that have happened at showings.
Yes.
I think Kim has a story to start us off with.
Yes, so showing buyers potential houses they might want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen, as anyone can imagine. All right, so the first story I have for you, I was in real estate maybe 2 years at this time, and I was showing some property to an older couple. They basically, so this gal was single and she has this new serious boyfriend, and they wanted to buy a home together.
Nice.
And they like finer things, right? Nicer things. And so, well, it was kind of more like she liked the finer things and he was kind of more like the mountain man.
Okay.
But
was there like a clash there, really, or
no,
were they able to
it seemed to work because I think that she had grown up fishing and camping,
So
she
share
was
similar
outdoorsy
values.
too, yeah.
Okay.
But she had a really nice house in Chico that she was going to be selling in order for them to buy this mountain house together. So I hadn't shown very much property up in Magalia, which is up in the mountains, just about 30 minutes east of Chico. So I was using my GPS, which that was 8 years ago GPS.
Okay.
Which now, we're 2024 now. So, GPS wasn't horrible 8 years ago, but
not the ever-perfected Google Maps.
Right? Yes. Yes. So they are following me in her very nice Cadillac, shiny paint, she had like a newer Cadillac.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how much that car would be worth. Do you know anything about cars?
Nope.
Okay. But it looked expensive. So they're following me in her Cadillac and I'm following the GPS.
Yeah.
And we're like, GPS is like, so we're on the main road, Skyway.
Yeah.
GPS is, turn right onto blah, blah, blah. So we turn right and we're driving a little bit. And then it's like, turn right here. And I look to my right and it is a dirt road. Dirt road.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. So we turn down the dirt road.
You see properties down dirt road.
Yes, there were houses on that road. And then it's like, turn left here. And so we turn down another dirt road. And it was
getting more.
And so we're potholing, and then we come to a dead end.
Wait, like an actual,
no
more road.
No more road, and we didn't find the house that I was trying to find, so I stop the car, I get out of the car, and I'm like, we have to figure out how to turn around, because GPS led us here, instead of...
Wow.
Yeah, so... Yeah. So we,
that
50 point.
Was that moment just...
Oh man, I was like, she's going to fire me. And so anyways, because it looked like I didn't know where I was or where I was going.
Yeah.
And realtors, they're expected to know their area that they serve in.
And in general, even after I'm at 1 year now,
yeah,
generally know what's going on, but...
Yeah, well, I had lived in Chico. I moved here in 1999.
Yeah.
And so, but just because you live someplace doesn't mean you go in every single nook and cranny.
Exactly.
Or even the next town up or 2 towns up.
It makes me think of the guy who he walked every street of New York, and it took him like 37 years or something.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard to know every single street of anything.
Yeah.
Not to mention a almost 100-mile wide area that you're servicing.
Yep. So we turn around, we go back through the potholes, and I'm looking in my rearview mirror and watching their heads bounce around in her beautiful Cadillac, and I'm going, oh my gosh. But I imagine we had found the house, and because my memory's a little fuzzy as to what happened afterwards, but I imagine that we found the house because she didn't fire me. We kept working together.
There you go.
Yeah. But that was an embarrassing moment for me because of the fact that I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know we were going to end up in potholes and a dead end. But what I learned from that was,
I was going to say,
anytime now that I show a house in an area that I don't know, or especially if it's in rural or in mountains, I call the listing agent and I ask for directions.
Yeah, no, sometimes the listing agent knows where they're going.
Like tips, and literally there are houses in Magalia that are on a dirt road with potholes.
Yeah.
And so you got to find out. It's like, well, client, this house, you may not want to go look at it because it has like potholes.
And it's hard to get
and
to.
You have a beautiful Cadillac, and you may not want to live on a street that you're going to be driving in slush and through potholes.
But so, that kind of leads me to my story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm not, of course, not super experienced at this point, but earlier.
You've been showing houses.
Oh yeah, no. I've been showing houses. I've helped some people buy houses.
Yeah.
And you passed me a referral from Sacramento.
From the Realtor in Sacramento had called me up.
And they wanted to like see houses out in like Oroville foothills.
Yeah.
And then they also decided they want to see stuff in like the hills of Yuba County. So like a couple
hours away. Yes.
And so, I mean.
And they were looking for a vacation home?
Yeah, kind of like a vacation home. Something to spend like a weekend getaway in.
For the whole family, extended family, friends, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because they were out of Sacramento. So no matter what, they'd only be 2.5 hours away from the cabin in the woods.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about how close we are to those areas.
Yeah.
But, sorry.
So we'll just cut this part out.
But we find it was 3 homes they wanted to go see. 1 or 2 in Yuba County. I'm actually not quite remembering.
Yeah.
And then one last one in like Oroville foothills area.
Okay.
And so I talked to the realtor I talked to all 3 realtors. No, I only talked to the first 2. That's the story. Okay. And you have to, by the end of this, I was so tired.
I can't even imagine.
The clients were great. Like, they were wonderful. They were ready to go see some rural houses, rural cabins. And so the first one we see is the furthest one away because I kind of want to work towards Chico so I can get home.
Smart.
And so we get to the one in Yuba County, and I had spoken to the listing agent. And the roads were actually super nice pretty much the whole way.
Okay.
It's right off the road from, if you look online, it's Lost Nugget like gas station or like convenience store or something. And that's the last gas station for like 100 miles or something down the road.
Right.
And so the listing agent is like, if you have any like less gas, just fill up. Just get some gas. You'll be fine. And so we stop there, get some gas, and go down the road. And the first one, it's fine. It's a 2-story. It's a little run down as things go. But probably what didn't sell it to them was there was like kind of a dump situation going on where they put all their trash. Because there's no waste management.
Right. This was in the mountains.
But it was still a pretty good looking property.
Yeah.
And so it was still on the list. And the second one was super easy to show. They had just finished getting all the stuff needed to make it permitted by the county. And it looked stellar. It already had an offer on it.
Oh, okay.
And so that was definitely on the list.
Yeah.
But, I mean, harder to get, of course.
Right.
The last one, in Oroville, closest to home. And so we're driving like the foothill highways.
Okay.
And they're windy, but I'm from like Mendocino, Fort Bragg area. They're not windy.
Yeah, no.
And so we're driving. We make it to the road that it's on. And immediately turns to dirt road.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, okay, this is fine. Like I know my car can handle it. I've kind of like I've given it trials and tests,
Yeah.
and they're in a Chevy Tahoe. They'll be fine.
They're great.
And so we get up, and the road like disconnects, turns into a different one, then reconnects, turns back into the same road.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
And it's like over a huge hill.
Ugh.
And so we're like winding up this hill, and it turns out back to paved at the top. And I think it was because people weren't able to get over at some point, so they paved
it was
it.
so steep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it was apparently way too steep. And I had already been driving for like 6 hours at this point.
6 hours for 2 hours.
6 hours of showing.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 hours to get to the first one. We were there for an hour and a half.
Oh.
It's like an hour to the next one. We stayed there for less time, but
Wow.
let's say an hour.
Yeah.
And then it was an hour to the last one.
Wow.
So about 6 hours at this point. And we get to the top, we go towards the bottom, and we like turn a bend, and there's a semi right there.
What? What is a semi doing on these dirt roads?
On these terrible roads. And we look at the bottom, and we're like, oh, okay, the semi's not moving. And we look, and it's in the grass off the road, and there's a guy in it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like almost jackknifed into its trailer, and its trailer is full of concrete.
What
on
was he doing there?
On this super steep road.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I mean, clients, super friendly people, and I, of course, want to help out. And so we park up just in the road,
Yeah.
and we go talk to him. He says, yeah, I've been stuck here for about 3 hours, and I tried to get up the hill, but I was just burning rubber, and so I had to stop, and then I slipped a little further down the hill. I was we were like, oh my gosh, do you need anything? And clients had some water, and I had some snacks we gave to him.
Oh.
And we're like, okay. And I'm on GPS, like, and I don't want to tell them what I find, but we're maybe a 20-minute walk from the house.
20-minute walk?
And it's like, that's not too bad,
right?
But it is late summer.
Yeah.
About 3 p.m., so middle of the hot day.
Oh, the hottest part of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I go to them and I say, okay, this is the last house.
Because there's no getting around this semi. It's
completely no
blocking
way.
The road. Oh
completely blocking the road. There's a cliff on one side, trees on the other.
Okay.
And it's not like steep, like a fall off cliff,
Yeah.
but we're not getting by
You can't
it.
drive around it. Yeah.
And so we find like a little kind of turnout area. We back our cars as much as out of the road as we can in case someone comes flying around the corner.
Right.
And they say, okay, we still want to see it. I say, okay, we'll walk. And I grab my briefcase messenger bag, and we walk 20 minutes. It was probably high 90s degrees outside, about 95 to 97. And we walk for 20 minutes. I'm in what I'm wearing today, basically.
Dress shoes and slacks.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. I had much better shoes.
Oh,
I had better
good.
walking shoes. I knew where I was going, but I had slacks and a dress shirt on because that's how I like to present myself.
Yes.
And so we're walking for about 20 minutes, and we make it to the house, and it's an REO listing.
Okay.
So
bank owned.
So the water's off.
Oh.
The electricity's off. There's cobwebs everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And very obviously, someone or the neighbors have stolen the well pump.
Oh.
Wiring out of the breaker box. This thing is rough.
It's a shell of a house.
It is so rough.
Oh my gosh.
And that's not even there's an embarrassing part. I wasn't embarrassed about showing them this because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But there is an embarrassing part to this.
Oh, no.
And so we get to the lockbox, and luckily there's signal because I had forgotten to load my app, and I'm like, yes, we made it. We get to look around. It's a pretty nice house. Maybe I wouldn't choose it for myself, but someone looking for some
potential.
A little bit of work, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, the neighbors looked fine. It was just rural.
Yeah.
And at the very end of a road. I was like, okay, you're a pretty common rural community, good stuff. It's just this house just isn't ready for anybody to be in it.
And they didn't want that big of a fixer-upper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're willing to do work. They kind of know the area they're looking in, but not something like this.
Not rewiring.
Yes.
And well pump and
That was a little much. And so we walk back to our cars, back through the heat. The sun's starting to go down. And I like run out of water right as we get to my car.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like out of water.
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
like an hour and a half from home. Like, okay, last house, we made it. And we get the truck driver's phone number because we know he has signal. And we're like, hey, just like don't touch your phone. I know it's boring, but don't touch your phone. And my client said they would keep up and I would check in the morning. And he ended up being fine, luckily. I think they couldn't get a tow truck out there, but they got someone to come pick him up.
I wonder if that
Or
truck's
something
still
like
there.
that. I know. I have
Like,
no
how
clue.
would you even get that truck out?
You know what? I know it's probably not still there.
Yeah. Could be.
Because we all made it home safely. They didn't like the last one. It was off the list, unfortunately. But we all make it home safely.
Yeah.
And I get a call like 2 days later, and it's the agent in Orville. And he says, hey, do you have the key for this property? In my heat-induced just tiredness, had opened the lockbox, opened it up, and then we just left.
No.
Luckily, he was so. I'm so sorry. There was this whole situation. We had to walk. He was like, okay, I get it. I don't want you to go all the way back there. We have extra keys. So just bring it to my Orville office one of these days.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Oh my
But oh my God, I think I remember telling you about it. And you told me the earlier story that you're like, you might have to get back to the property.
Yes.
Luckily
you didn't have to take that.
It turned out fine. But just one evening, my girlfriend and I just made a trip to Orville to foster freeze or something. We're like, we'll make a date night out of it. I'll return the key and stuff.
So funny.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that was tough. It was a tough one.
That's a hard one. Yeah, that's one you're gonna remember 10 years
I
from now.
know. Definitely.
But yeah, when you said when you're telling your story and you were like you were glad that you had self-service.
Yes.
Because then because you hadn't previously opened the app,
Mm-hmm.
So for our viewers and listeners, there's apps, of course, for everything. And so when you go to show a house and it has a certain type of lockbox on it,
Mm-hmm.
then you have an app that you punch in your code, and it will open the lockbox via Bluetooth.
Yep.
But that only works if you have cell service.
Yes.
And so what we have to do is we have to make sure our app is already open on our phone before we get out of cell service, and then it will work.
It track us on GPS.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay, they opened it, they're where they say they are, and it can connect.
And that reminds me of a story that I have. I shared with you already a little bit of it, but I had been working with this younger guy who was a teacher. He had been in the military, just like this really amazing guy.
Yeah.
And his mom, who was a hoot, just a ball of energy and funny and just super fun to be around. So his mom was kind of there as his support, they were really close friends too. But he was going to be buying his first house. And so we were kind of looking all the way from Chico all the way up to Red Bluff. Those were his areas that he was interested in living, because his mom and sister lived up in Forest Ranch.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so he wanted to be able to be close to his work in Red Bluff, but then also be able to go visit mom and sister.
Absolutely.
So one of the houses that he wanted me to show him was out on this Indian reservation that's kind of like an hour and a half outside of Chico.
Yeah.
And it's really, really out there. Like, you're driving for an hour and a half, and there is not much around besides just farmland.
That sounds like that's the line. Like, once you hit an hour and a half, you're probably out somewhere.
Yeah. And so we drive all the way out to this Indian reservation, and just in case you're curious, you don't have to be American Indian to live on this particular Indian reservation. Anybody could buy a house that was for sale there.
Yeah.
And so we get all the way there the house itself was completely surrounded by a chain link fence, and the roads in the reservation were not very wide. I mean, like 2 cars could drive by each other past, but there was no shoulder because on either side of this kind of skinny road was a ditch, and the ditch was like 2 feet deep.
Oh, it was like on the road.
Yeah, it was like on either side of the road.
Okay.
There was no shoulder. Like
Gotcha.
you could not pull off the road.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So we're like trying to figure out where to park because this chain link fence, right, is all the way around the house. So,
like there's just, I mean, it's like driveway, fence.
Yeah.
And then ditch.
Road, ditch, fence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had somehow gone up the road and turned around using somebody else's driveway.
Yep.
That didn't have a chain link fence around the entire property. And they had turned around and then parked in like a vacant lot.
Okay, there's
Right?
like a spot.
Well, I decided that I would just try to park in front of the house. And so I used the little portion of the driveway to kind of veer and then aim the ditch because I was going to park with one set of tires, my right side of tire, the passenger side, on one side of the ditch, and the driver's side tires on the other side of the ditch.
Like on the road.
So off the road,
Okay.
but I had this little piece of driveway that wasn't chain linked off that I could point my car and then line the ditch up.
Yeah, but then
Okay.
park there.
So I'm parked off of the road with this ditch running down the middle, underneath my car.
Yeah.
And I had somehow gotten my tires on either side. So we go inside the chain link fence, we go up to the house, and I realized I didn't have the app open.
Of course.
So I tried to open it, and then, it's just thinking and spinning and spinning and spinning, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is bad.
Yeah.
We just drove an hour and a half to get to this house, and I can't open the lockbox.
Can't show.
So I break the news to them, and they're just the coolest people. Oh my gosh. They were so just like, that's okay, by the looks of the exterior, they just weren't really liking the vibe of
You like them.
the particular house anyways. So we kind of looked through the windows a little bit and then just kind of hung out a little bit to try to make the hour and a half drive feel a little bit worth it because we had an hour and a half drive to go back.
Absolutely.
So then we're like, okay, so we decided to leave and head out back to Chico.
Yeah.
So they get in their car and I get in mine. And I'm like, okay, now how do I get out of this parking spot that I had got myself into? It's one thing to go forwards and line your car over the center of a ditch, but another to do it in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
So I start to back up. I honestly have no idea how I got myself in this situation. I don't know. But I start to back up, and all of a sudden I feel my car, and I'm going like this. And the back end of my car is going like this, like raising up into the air. And I, in my driver's seat, I'm getting closer and closer to the ground. And so I think what was happening was my driver's side tire was starting to slide down into the ditch.
And then the back was just lifting.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I stop, I just put the car in park, and I'm like, the car's like rocking back and forth, like moving.
So you're teetering inside this like 2 foot wide.
So I open my door and I'm like, I'm gonna ask my clients for help. So I get out of the car and it's teetering and moving as I'm getting out, and I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna fall when I'm getting out because the weight shift I thought would, be the straw that broke the camel's back. So I get out, I go over to their car, and they're just watching me this whole time.
They stayed. They were just.
Oh yeah, because they're waiting for me.
Yeah, they're waiting.
They were gonna follow me back to Chico, and I'm like, you guys, and they're like, yeah, this doesn't look good.
Oh man.
So the son, the actual buyer, he's like, well, let me see if I can fix the scenario. So he gets in the driver's seat, But once he gets in, he can feel the teetering, and he knows that there's no traction on the tires.
It's just not gonna happen.
Traction.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, Mom, and he tells his mom, he's like, Mom, you and Kim get in the back, because we had my car's a hatchback.
Yeah.
So she and I get in the back to try to get more weight, because the back end of the car was up in the air like 2 feet. So we get in the back, and luckily we gave that front tire enough traction.
It was enough.
Yep, that he was able to get it out of the ditch and back onto the street. But that was probably the most embarrassing moment I ever had in real estate. But with the greatest clients ever. Like, couldn't have been any better people to have that happen with.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I felt like such a ditz. Like, oh, she didn't know how to drive, or whatever. But
was it wrong place, right time?
All right, now let me introduce to you our special guest on today's podcast. This is Sherry Calbert with Century 21. Sherry's been a realtor for 34 years. She's a piano player, a world traveler, a fashionista, and just an all-around joy to be around. Sherry, thank you for being on our podcast about showings.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Looking forward to it very much.
So, you probably have a lot of crazy stories about showings in your 34 years of real estate. Can you share with us one of your many?
Well, it's funny, just you saying showings and thinking of a funny story. It was about this time of the year, and it was a crisp autumn day. I'll never forget it. And lots of times, we really enjoy our clients coming in the car with us because we have this bonding time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This particular day, I was showing to a large family that needed car seats, and I think they even had the dog in there, and so they followed me. It could have been a station wagon. This is a long time ago.
Okay, so they didn't go in your car. They
No.
followed you. Got it.
We pull up, and I was so glad because this time of the year, it was actually closer to like Thanksgiving. It might have even been like the day or two before Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
And so you don't want to interrupt people, and they've got their company there and the turkey in there.
Yeah, usually.
So we pull up, and it's this vacant home in a very nice neighborhood. And so we like to open the doors first and then let our clients go in, and we follow behind them. It's also a safety thing to do that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So we look at the house, and it's vacant because stagers weren't popular then. And so spatially, it's really hard to kind of get an idea of your couch or whatever's going to be there. And then the guy has lots of cars. So the garage being oversized was really important. So we went out into the garage, and there was this one door, this little shed that was kind of wooden, and it was kind of tilted and kind of had cobwebs on it. The rest of the house was really clean.
In the garage?
In the garage, like a little workshop, like in the garage.
Uh-huh.
So
sounds a little
I'm
sketchy.
Pushing and pushing, and it's almost as if like that little hook thing, like on the door, is like hooked. And so all of a sudden, the door comes open, and this bent over man that looks with a rumpled, stilled skin beard was
my God.
standing with the cane, and all the children are like behind me, and we all go like that. He goes, "What are you doing?" And he had been in there because it's really cold right now. And Chico, he'd been in there sleeping on the ground. And my family went racing through the house, and he came chasing after us with his cane. And we got in our cars, and we called the agent, and because cell phones were still back then, and said, "You need to know that you have got a visitor in the garage." She said, "I didn't realize they did that." But for safety wise too, we do have something in Chico where you can call the code enforcement, so somebody went over and helped the gentleman find a more safe
so
place.
this wasn't like grandpa who was still living in the shed. This was a squatter.
A squatter.
Oh,
So we have to be careful.
and he chased you with a cane.
Chase us with a cane. And we're here to tell about it.
Oh my God.
I might not have even really thought of that because it gets really cold very
It is
suddenly.
cold.
Yeah. Yep.
No, you wouldn't be thinking, "Oh, I wonder if somebody's on the other side of this pushing." It's
No.
a vacant thing. So,
Just
anyways.
wouldn't even think.
That's probably one of my top 3, like, oh my gosh, stories that's ever happened as far as showing.
Oh my gosh.
Either that or, showing a house that wasn't listed.
Oh, yeah?
You transpose your numbers and they're like, what are you doing here? My house isn't listed. That's next door.
So wait, tell us more about that. So you take your clients in the house?
Yeah, we're going in the house. The door was unlocked.
Right.
Okay, yeah, because
It was on the same street,
Yep.
but it's the house next door. Because lots of times people don't put for sale signs in front of their house either.
And the sellers don't want a lockbox. They just say, "Oh, we'll leave the front door open.
Yeah.
You guys can come on in."
Yeah, that's not unusual.
It can be a safety thing. It could be just I
Yeah.
probably have some sellers who are like, we want someone to be there at every showing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll figure it out.
Be there. Yeah,
We'll figure
exactly.
it out.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let me see what I got.
We have some questions for you.
Okay.
Have you ever had any days where you've just shown how many houses would you maximum show in a day?
Per person, I only like to show about 5 at a time because it gets confusing. If you do the full printout, and then I like to give those to people so that your buyers can make notes on them because it gets confusing.
They start to confuse the houses with each other.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
But
what's the most you ever showed?
14 in a day.
Oh,
and all over. But
that
now
blows my max out of the water.
because you can do now. We can track it and it can map it for us.
Yes.
So you're not going
the best
back and forth
place
like that.
Yep.
Like I just showed 7 with Paradise and Magalia the other day, and so I started backwards from Chico. I went to Magalia first, and then worked my way back down the hill, thinking about it getting dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to show the houses when it's dark.
It gets dark now at 5:30.
Yep.
5:30.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it's really hard to tell if you like the outside of a house in the dark.
That's true. Exactly.
Can't really see it.
Don't want to trip and get your foot stuck in the yard in a hole or something. That's kind of dangerous too.
Well, now I remember one time, and I think this was an office tour, but we were touring a house, or maybe it was even MLS, and this was one of those houses that you fix up. It was being marketed as a house somebody could buy and flip, right?
Yeah.
Well, this house was disgusting. You walk in and you're wondering if you're going to sink through the subfloor. It smelled like pee. There was stuff everywhere. What have you ever shown a house to some buyers and you walk in and there was something disgusting?
Yes.
I think an even better question is, have you shown a house like that and then they bought it?
Yeah. Sometimes we do have to keep our opinions to ourselves.
Yes, that's
because, yes, I've been to listings like that before.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was sick last week, so please disregard the mess."
The mess.
And you go,
"This is a week's worth of mess."
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
And
25 years.
I know. Well, we like to tell people, to kind of clean the cat duck slew.
Yeah.
This thing obvious because smell is a big turnoff. I think you walk in and you're like, I'm not sure what that is.
I know we always say okay, if you have a stinky dog, right? Even if you have the dog staying with somebody else during the showing, that's gonna reduce your house value by $10,000.
They're gonna know. They're gonna know.
Stinky dog, $10,000.
Yeah. I wonder what else they don't take care of. They don't shampoo their dog enough.
Yeah. The dog probably peed everywhere.
Yeah. Mom has a puppy and it never goes away.
That's right. Air filters probably once every 5 years. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh
You gotta
my
check it.
goodness. Yeah.
Let's see. Can you think of an embarrassing moment, maybe? Or
Well, I imagine the showing the wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
Embarrassing,
them
yeah.
showing the wrong house. Yeah, that would be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Or the same when I brought up the disgusting house.
Okay, there's a house that from the outside, the blinds are always shut.
Yeah.
And it's in this great neighborhood. And you pull up and I'm like, oh, and when we get addresses, go see this house, go see that house. And I'm thinking, oh, not that one.
Yeah.
Not that one. And I'm like, oh good, it's this one.
Yeah.
And I very proudly go up there to the front door and I'm all excited. And they open the door and I walk in and it's like, this was just like a fake. Like this, what was beyond was like, you just entered like Alice in Wonderland.
Oh my gosh.
Like the mire and they're like, I go, can I sit down? And they're like, yeah, do you want to sit on the top of that box over there? Or there's no furniture, no space, anything on the counter, like wiggle.
Yeah.
Really?
And they're like, so when can you get a photographer over here? And we were ready to list this right away.
Yeah.
And then we have to meet with our clients and explain to them, because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Cleanliness.
You're like, there's some work to
Yeah.
be done.
I give you a little.
flooring is, yeah.
I'll give you a checklist of some projects you can work over.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Well, what do you have here with you today?
Well, just said yes to the address. I was just thinking about all the fun little props and stuff that we have as agents and with marketing, and what you guys are doing today, and how our market has really changed with the social media and the Netflix and things like that.
Oh,
It's like fishing though. Like, this is old school and print
Oh,
pictures. So when you go fishing, you got to put all sorts of lines out.
That's
And
right.
say,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have
look
our
at that.
local upgraded living,
local magazine. I'll
and
be
that
checking.
is the Northern Valley Lifestyle brand. But Sherry's got her ad in here that is in there every time the magazine comes out. And I love that your like profile, or what do you call this? Photo, or her agent photo isn't just like her head. It's not a headshot. She's
What
on
are you trying to say?
she's on. Well, it's just, it totally captures
It
her
is
personality.
super cute.
And it's different. But she's on a bike, and she's, got flowers in her little basket, and it's good marketing.
Thank you. Well, it's funny. It's worked both ways. Most of the time, 99% of the time, people will say, if they call me on my bike photo, they'll say, you look like you're fun.
Yeah.
And I like that you're not just doing the headshot. But I've had girlfriends before. Sherry, I want you to know, that listing you went to, well, I was one of the other people they were interviewing. And actually, one of my really good friends said, you didn't get chosen because of your bike photo. And I just said, how come? And they go, because they thought you looked reckless, that you had your feet off the pedals, and if she doesn't even know how to ride a bike, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the only time I've ever heard that in 10 years.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I said, probably that's not a fun person. I don't want to work with somebody like that anyway.
Not quite your crowd.
Not a good fit there.
That's right. We're not very matchy.
Right.
So.
Oh man.
Well, thank you, Sherry, for coming on our podcast and sharing some of your stories, and
I know.
just bringing your energy and positivity to the Realtor Diaries.
Thank you for listening and being a part, and with this great team.
And the bike photo definitely only tells part of the story.
That's right.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
And now it's time for the news, the segment where we talk about today's topic in more statistical and kind of tips and tricks terms.
That's right. So since we're talking about showings, it makes a whole lot of sense to talk about the new buyer-broker agreement that is a result of the National Association of Realtors lawsuit settlement that happened in 2024. Well, the buyer-broker agreement has always existed.
Yeah, I was trained on it at the very beginning of my career.
That's right. Just like a seller has a contract with their realtor for their realtor to sell the house, buyers can have a contract with their realtor to show them houses and write the contract for them and represent them. In the past, before the changes came about from this lawsuit settlement, oftentimes the seller would offer the buyer's agent a commission to, if you bring me the buyer, I'll pay your commission.
It would be broadcasted out to all realtors.
That's right, on the MLS, and we could see right there on the MLS how much commission was being offered by the seller. Well, as of August of this year, the settlement terms became effective, and so it affected the whole country basically. But there's a requirement that a buyer's agent needs to have a signed representation agreement with their client before they even show a client a house. And so that means for showings, buyers are going to have to sign a contract, and in this contract it's going to kind of specify what the buyer is looking for. It can have all the way down to like the cities and the county.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much the agent is going to get paid,
Mm-hmm.
and then that amount on that buyer broker agreement will be the max that that agent can get paid.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And in California specifically, the governor signed it into law to be effective January 1st.
yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Yep.
AB 2992.
Yep. And so the settlement states that it's just realtors that have to have the buyer representation agreement before they show a property. But this law means that any agent who practices real estate has to have a buyer representation agreement in place before an offer is made.
Right. And the difference between a realtor, capital R, and an agent,
Yeah.
lowercase a, is that a realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors.
Yep. And a real estate agent is someone who has passed the salesperson license exam at the Department of Real Estate.
Yeah. But since most realtors, real estate agents, are members of the National Association of Realtors, then most agents out there, most working agents, will have to follow the
Yeah.
NAR rule of having that agreement filled out before you can even show a house.
Yeah, it is pretty much synonymous. But on the next topic, sellers, when you're looking to sell your property, obviously people are going to be showing it. There has been an advent of more sight unseen purchases than in the past because of 3D tours, virtual tours, even just having the internet and being able to see photos increase the number of buyers that were willing to buy without seeing the property. But it's not so much that you just want to do everything online. The best way to sell your property is still to have it shown. Because on average, you're probably looking at 19 or 20 showings before your house is sold, which is crazy. Because in a super hot market, you might get multiple showings a day the very first week you come on.
Yeah.
And if it's a slower market at the time, you might only get one every other day or not even that.
Right. Yep.
It all depends on the
Sometimes-
listing in the market.
Sometimes one a week.
Absolutely. And since you have so many people coming to your house, hopefully one of them buying it, if you're still like living on the property, as many sellers are, you have to keep in mind that some people have sticky fingers.
That's right.
And the most stolen items are coming in at the top three. Number 3 is small electronics, because someone can swipe a phone, someone can swipe a laptop.
Tablet.
Yep, anything they see
Yeah.
that can fit in a bag can be stolen. And then number 2 on the list above small electronics is jewelry. And say if you have a stand on your
Yep.
bathroom counter, on your vanity with your necklace on it, that's very easy to lift and take.
Yeah, and some thieves they know to look in the top drawer of the dresser.
Yeah,
So it's like, if you're gonna hide your nice jewelry, hide it somewhere that isn't typical.
yep. And the number 1 most stolen item out of a listing is prescription drugs, unfortunately.
That is crazy.
I'll say that because, those are the things that the people living there need, but
That's right.
that's what you see stolen the most. But all of this is just to say, make sure to keep anything valuable or anything that could be seen as valuable tucked away somewhere. Even then, you can ask your agent to inform other agents to say, please keep the closet locked. Please, please don't let people into this room. Sometimes it can throw buyers off, but most of the time they're understanding.
Yeah.
And that's where their personal items are.
That's right. Yeah. Now, if you're a buyer going on showings, what are some things you should be looking for? Well, if you've got an excellent realtor representing you, that realtor is going to be pointing things out to you about the house. Like looking up at the ceiling, looking for water stains. In the bathroom, stepping down around the toilet and the floor, seeing if it's squishy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, things like that. But if you're going to go to an open house, for example, and your realtor's not there, here's some important questions to ask during an open house. One, how many offers has the seller received? These are questions that we, as our clients' realtors, would ask. Why are the sellers selling? Like, in other words, are these guys motivated, or are they just trying to get the most money they can, and they don't really need to sell? How long has the property been on the market? And let's see, what are the neighbors like?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then also keep in mind, buyers, potential home buyers, open house goers. Nowadays, it seems like every other house has that Ring doorbell, cameras. So just keep in mind now, whenever you go into any house, open house, or showing, you may be on camera. The people that own the house may be watching and listening to you.
Yep, just keep it in mind. And if I could add one more question or thing to keep in mind is that when you're at an open house, I mean, I hold open houses. I've held them for Kim's listings. I've held them for other agents' listings in our office. That person, if they can answer those questions, might be someone you'd look at hiring.
That's right.
An open house is a good place to find a buyer's agent.
Yes, because a lot of times it won't be the listing agent that's holding the house open on that Saturday or that Sunday. It's going to be another agent in their office who's looking to meet buyers to help them buy a house.
Yep. And finally, for realtors to keep in mind during showings, us at the Sierra North Valley Realtor Association, our safety committee has a term called staying off the X. And so it's just kind of a safety philosophy because we show so many different people properties all the time. And not all of them are real buyers. Not all of them are as safe as we would like them to be.
That's right.
And I encourage you to maybe when you're in a very good mindset to look up stats on like comparing the dangers of real estate to other careers.
I've actually heard that being a real estate agent is like a most dangerous job just under being a police officer.
Yeah. And it's it's the perception that we are making a lot of money and that we have it on us.
That's right.
Yep. And so staying off the X is staying out of the paths of danger because they all pass through the X. Something like try not to be right in front of someone when you're walking through an entrance or doorway, giving people space when you're in like an enclosed area. Anything where the most important part of staying off the X is your gut will tell you when you're on it.
That's right.
When you are on the X, you will feel it.
Yeah, so as a realtor, we should let the clients go first when we're showing a house, and we should always know where our exits are.
Yes. And it may be a little paranoid on my part, but my preference for showing is to get there 15, 20 minutes early, which is harder when there's a lot of showings happening, that kind of thing.
Multiple in a row.
But I prefer to get there 15 to 20 minutes early or even 5 minutes early. And I like to go in and walk through the house.
Yeah.
I just like to know where my entrances are, where my exits are. And even then, I get a preview of the house and I can tell my clients what's going on.
Yeah. Another good tip for staying off the X is when you do pull up to a house to show it, don't park in the driveway.
Yes.
Park somewhere so that nobody can block you in. Because if you park in the driveway, then someone can come behind you and block you into that spot.
Yep.
So
And there are some very scary stories about that particular situation.
Yes, the danger is real.
But in general, a showing is fine.
Yeah.
It's not to scare you, it is to stay safe.
That's
There you
right.
go.
Well, this has been a great podcast.
Yeah, I really like this episode.
Yeah, showings, I mean, I think every realtor probably has dozens of stories for crazy showings, fun showings, scary showings, disgusting showings, and amazing showings too.
Exactly.
Right?
But yeah, no, showings are definitely, some realtors' favorite part.
I do.
I mean, yeah, it's
I
a
love
really
houses.
great part.
I love walking through them and checking out the architecture and the design, and yeah, it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Until next time.
All right.